next, which is our expert panel. We're talking about, the theme of Innovation Days. Innovation Challenge this year is redefining the UC horizons. And I'm happy to have on our guest today to talk about how those horizons are being redefined by the market and the world around us, but also by Mitel ourselves, because we're not just responding to everything that's changed. We're in the driver's seat, as everybody knows today, as we're saying, here's what we could do, here's what we could do. So I'm going to bring on our three panelists and a quick introduction to everybody to set the stage for our experts. So first up, we have Blair Pleasant, who joins us from Confusion, and she's principal analyst and president there. I apologize, I'm going to read my notes so that I don't miss the details and get anything wrong. So Blair is co-founder of BC Strategies, industry resource, very common household name for everybody watching. She has 20 years of experience providing consulting, market research analyst on voice, data, convergence markets, applications, technologies, with an aim of helping end users and vendor clients strategically and tactically. That's a very short summary of everything Blair has done and can do and knows. So thank you, Blair, for joining us. We also have Jim Lundy, founder and CEO of Aragon Research. He has over 30 years of technology and management experience as vendor, user, analyst, every side of everything. He spent 12 years at Gartner, where he formed and led the collaboration and social software research team, and served as lead analyst for enterprise content management and corporate learning. And Jim has extensive experience in product strategy, development, and go-to-market plans. So Jim, thank you for joining us as well. And then we also have Sandy Spink, who's joining us from the UK. And Sandy's ICT consultant, so we're really glad to have him on from that in the field every day, talking to customers, seeing what they need, what they're trying to do, all the unique ways they're doing that, and all the trends across what everybody is looking at today. Sandy is based in the UK, as mentioned, has 30 plus years of experience, advises organizations from local governments and NHS trusts to law firms, private sector, on the design and implementation of communication systems and contact centers. So Sandy, thank you as well for joining us. And then, of course, already introduced, we have Luis, our CTO, who's going to join in as well on the discussion, especially from the Mitel perspective of what we're doing in the landscape of all these changes and everything going on. So let's dive in. We have questions. We want to hear from you. So I'm going to try to minimize how much I talk and so let all of you talk. So first up, kind of a broad question talking about UC. I want to know, how is that helping solve customer challenges in the context of all this change around us, digital transformation, what is cloud, what isn't, AI, everything's changing. We have UC. How is that helping customers adapt to our changing world? But also, how do you expect or see the role of UC itself to evolve in this whole changing world? So we're going to go around the group. Blair, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Jordan. So I love that we're starting off with digital transformation because it's all about modernizing business operations and processes to help organizations be more innovative and agile. And I think we all know that UC is obviously key to that. Communications and collaboration are incredibly important elements to digital transformation. We all experienced that during COVID when meetings became video meetings. And collaboration tools really were the best way for people to work together. And the hybrid work environment, hybrid work as opposed to hybrid communications, wouldn't be possible without UC tools. It really relies on that. Also with digital transformation, I think businesses need more and better insights into their communications. You need the right tools with analytics to provide visibility into your communications, both internally and externally. You need these insights to know what's going on, to identify what processes and workflows and operations are working, and maybe things that need to be improved. And as we'll be talking about, of course, AI is going to really be helping with this. AI and analytics really go together. So we're going to be seeing a lot more of that to use that to understand, how communications are working and how it can be improved.
And go over to Jim next, because as we talk about the way things used to, technology just one thing at a time, this and that, but everything's getting connected and needs to be broader. So Jim, your thoughts on UC and how things are changing?
Well, I mean, one of the things that's so interesting is there's not a lot of, and by the way, hello to all the Mitel people, but there's not a lot of firms out there that understand communications and collaboration and integration, um, because it's a complicated area. And so, you jump back 10 years ago, this was really hard stuff. You had SIP extensions and stuff didn't work together. And so, you ended up with communications, collaboration, contact centers, isolated islands. And today that's not the case. And part of the challenge today is saying, hey, we need to communicate faster. We need to notify immediately. And that's what business leaders want. And so it's an exciting time in the market for this new era of, we're kind of calling advanced communications, because of the fact that you can connect stuff, you can make it work, you can do real-time things. So it's a completely different world than it was 10 years ago. And that's what makes it exciting for all of us, because, customers want this stuff. And if you can communicate that we can do that, then they're going to want to buy your stuff.
And then Sandy, you're out there with customers as they're riding these tides and waves of change and adapting to it. So what are you seeing as people, we figure out all of this change?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the world is changing on a daily basis, and I mean, digital transformation is obviously very much a buzz phrase at the moment. But it's about freeing up. What digital transformation means is about freeing up valuable human resources through efficient processes and technology. And UC is absolutely a core component in that process for collaboration, for agility, and joined up communications. So the ability to integrate easily with CRM, with ERP, and so many other business applications, and to be able to have a single sign-on, single pane of glass, without the application hopping, and using low-code integrations to achieve that. So bringing the various channels of communication together beyond instant messaging, collaboration, and video onto shared workspaces and document collaboration without changing the platform. So it is, in essence, it's an enabler of flexible working, disaster recovery, and business continuity, which has absolutely changed in the last 5-10 years. To using any device or anywhere, any device anywhere. And so it can be on-premise, it can be UCaaS, UCaaS cloud, it can be private data center set up. There's no restrictions on how the systems are designed. And so, to be able to advise end users on the flexibility, which is my position, they come to me as an independent so that they can say, well, look, there's a huge market out there. What do we do? Then I can draw on all of that lot to point them in the right direction.
And then over to you, Luis, when we connect that to what we're doing at Mitel.
Yeah, certainly. And what we observe here, and I think was mentioned before, the complexity of our deployments, there is much more than what we used to have 10 years ago, correct? So it's many more products, types of application solutions. And we're serving not only the traditional knowledge worker or horizontal solutions, we have to provide also solutions for verticals and ensure that there is that extra capability that supports the customer business, brings integrations as needed to drive solutions. And we ended up with 70, 80 million users out there, correct? So some simple deployments, some very complex deployments, and that ability to navigate across them, provide the integrations, providing the services, that's what will be key for the transformation of enterprises of the future. And I learned from one consultant in the past, they love complexity. And but we have to navigate through complexity and provide the right solutions for our customers.
Yeah, and then so that brings us to our next question. Speaking, when it comes to deployment complexity or how do we get things out there, and as Jim mentioned, 10 years ago is not the same as today. But what we had been hearing for a long time was, we have premises-based communications, and then there's cloud, and that's trending towards that, and it's either or, premise or cloud. But what we're seeing now that we're in it and everybody's experiencing it, what we're finding our customers more and more are finding themselves wanting not one or the other, but they want both. They want that middle spot of hybrid, because that's what works for them for their unique needs and, or integrations and applications in the cloud they got to tie into, as well as, the trends they're all facing as we talked about digital transformation, AI, that sort of thing. So we want to talk a little bit more about that hybrid solution space and customers looking at it and what that means now and moving forward. So Jim, I'll go over to you first to share a little bit of your thoughts on hybrid.
Yeah, well, I mean, so it's kind of like Back to the Future. So, the reality is that while there's kind of like, oh, you must go cloud, that's been like the battle cry for the last 15 years. The reality is a lot of people didn't do that, and there's a lot of reasons why. And by the way, Aragon estimates 85% of all content is not in the cloud. And by the way, a majority of phone systems are not in the cloud. But one of the reasons why people want choice and why hybrid is now the thing, and you can call it hybrid cloud, you can call it multi-cloud, is that you want, enterprises want choice about where they're going to run their applications, which are often mission critical. And so, our take is don't buy into the fact that, oh, you must run here, you must run there, because there's limitations, and some of it has to do with security, uptime, availability. And so, and then the biggest thing is that with AI runs better when it's closer to the edge. All right. And a lot of mission critical applications, which Mitel is very good at, run better on the edge. And there's some of the big hyperscalers that some of us know well. Some of their stuff, like maybe Microsoft Power Platform, doesn't run on the edge. Customers are just finding that out. So it's kind of a good time to be able to offer secure, hybrid cloud, because that's actually what people really want if they know you have it.
Yeah. And sorry, a moment there, Al, at Mitel, we're all multitasking all the time. The coffee machine was running in the background. He made sure to jump up and close the door. Apologies if anybody heard that one.
Live.
But yeah, okay. So I'm going to go next over to Sandy to build on that. We're looking at customers and hybrid and what do people need now and what are they going to need?
Yeah, well, over here in the UK, it's more a case of enabling the transition from on-premises equipment to cloud, but at an affordable pace. So both financially and structurally, so they can do it at the speed that they can actually suits the pocket, but structurally because it can be a major transition going from a more traditional approach to telephony and then going on to UC, but as a cloud-based product. So, by the way, sorry, I've got to pause here for a second and apologise for my voice. I don't usually sound like this. I'm at the other end of a really nasty cold. So, apologies for that. So, security and ownership are assured with on-prem in a sensitive environment. So, you can meet compliance requirements as well as your own business protocols. And protection from network outages is a classic one and something we're all rather painfully familiar with in the last 12 months. Mm-hmm. So it's a major dependency, loss of network connectivity with a SaaS model. In a hybrid environment, of course, you're protected against that.
And I'm getting over a cold as well, so I totally understand. But you sound great. I think you're hitting that Hugh Grant register, which is perfect.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Talking about control over privacy, security, Blair, throw over to you for your thoughts on that and hybrid.
Yeah, it's really interesting with hybrid and with the cloud. The pendulum is definitely swinging back. For a while, it was all the way public cloud, and now we're definitely seeing the pendulum swinging back to, private cloud, on-prem, and definitely, hybrid. And I'm seeing a lot of organizations that actually went to the public cloud and they're coming back to hybrid because of privacy and security. There've been so many security breaches that we've all been hearing about. And, as Jim mentioned, for AI, it's all about data and keeping that data secure and having the right access to it does require a hybrid solution. But I think the other aspect of hybrid that's interesting is the ability to mix and match applications with communications being on-prem and some other applications or being on-prem or in the customer's data center. And then other applications like, collaboration can be in the public cloud. And, I think like what Mitel is doing with Zoom is awesome. And it's, helping to provide that flexibility and more options for businesses. Customers can keep using their Mitel platforms for voice, but get some of the new things from Zoom for collaboration, AI, meetings, and have that Zoom first experience, using the Zoom Workplace and Zoom AI Companion with their, tried and true Mitel platform. Mitel's doing similar things with, or somewhat similar with, Microsoft Teams and Mitel Assistant, so that you can really have that hybrid solution to get the best of both worlds. So we need to think of hybrid, not just, where is the communications, or, where are you storing things, but also being able to mix and match those applications and bring in some of those third parties that Luis was talking about earlier.
Yeah, and hybrid is one of our main categories for our Innovation Challenge presentations today, and for good reason. So I'll go to you, Luis, to talk more about that hybrid space and what we're doing.
Yeah, we've been observing the market, and exactly as you guys mentioned. So we don't see a full-blown transition to cloud. Yeah, definitely there are customers that adopted UCaaS 100%. The majority of them are really in a hybrid type of deployment. I keep saying that UCaaS is not a final destination. UCaaS is just another mode of consuming services, correct? And we need to ensure there's good integration, interoperability between them. What we've been doing at Mitel is that we have been in this endeavor for quite some time, and we have solutions to integrate properly, deliver the Microsoft Teams direct routing. We are about to launch our Mitel Hybrid Cloud application, which will be our own solutions with residency, data residency, and data sovereignty for the European markets, where, as you can imagine, data privacy is a must. And when you talk about AI Act, consuming user data, correct? So there's a lot of fears and a lot of regulatory demands over there about how data is handled. And we want to ensure that our solutions meet those requirements. So Jim mentioned as well. So Edge for AI processing is something of value. We want to explore that and find out how we can deliver real-time communications, real-time AI communications to our customers, taking advantage of the huge investment we have in Edge products, SBCs, applications, voice platforms. So I believe there is value for us to evolve there, and we continue driving our strategy around hybrid. But Blair, you mentioned very well. So the Zoom partnership is incredible because they also believe in hybrid. So we're not in this partnership to take our base out to the cloud. So it's a hybrid solution, is one of the deployment models, and we're going to invest a lot in that.
So I'm going to keep us moving so we keep on time and get all our questions asked and answered. But also I'm going to pause for a moment to do a quick definition. You are the experts. I know other people watching are probably like me. Sometimes you're in a room with experts and somebody says a term and you see everybody else seems like they know what that means, so you nod along. And then you go Google it after to see what they're talking about. So I'm going to be Google for today as we get into our next topic about contact center. And the term when we're talking about multimodal communication, which is another one of our main categories of innovation. But multimodal, what that's talking about is when a mode can be text, it can be an email, it can be a instant chat, a voice call, all the different ways of communicating. But this is different than omni-channel in the past, where we referred to a customer in a contact center customer experience perspective could reach out their preferred way, but then that's how we talk. Where multimodal is where you can bring all those together. So I could start with a text and escalate to a chat or a voice call from there. And so we want to talk about, contact center. Again, everything's changing. When it comes to things like multimodal communication or AI augmentation, what does customer experience in contact center look like, and where is it going? So again, I'm going to go to Jim first for this one as we get into that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I would probably just throw out is sometimes you hear multimodal more in the terms of AI and algorithms that can work together, and you'd still kind of hear a lot more about omni-channel as far as the different types of modalities. And not to be the bearer of bad news, but there's many providers in contact center land where they can do the different types of communication modalities, but sometimes they don't work together. And unfortunately, it's hard to prove that all the time. Oh, no, we work together. It all works. But the reality is customers kind of tell us like, yeah, it doesn't really work that way. But I think the bigger point you're making is, you need to be able to offer ways to communicate in a contact center, whether it's human agents or virtual agents, with customers in the form and modality that they want. And it's not just the traditional channels. You're seeing social channels. They may want to be on WhatsApp. They may want to be on Facebook Messenger or Apple SMS, email, not just voice and video and texting. But again, that's one of the things people are looking for. The people that can do that better and do it securely are the ones that are going to earn the right to get more business. But I would just say that there's still a lot of room for improvement in the market on the the quote multimodal or omni-channel and the ability to seamlessly switch between those modes. It's still, I would say, an industry challenge.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Blair next to build on that, and then also to connect it to, I know your wheelhouse includes the convergence of UC and CC, and whether it's contact center or customer experience or however somebody decides to call it. But how are those working together now, in the past, or continuing on in ways that are the same or different?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jordan, you gave a great definition of multimodal, and it really is a good example of what's going on in the contact center. We've been talking about omni-channel for years and years, but now we really are talking about multimodal, where customers can move between, voice, text, and visual engagement. So it's not just the channel, but it's the mode. And even within the same interaction. And some people are starting to call this channel-less experiences, providing these multimodal capabilities with rich media, letting customers move between channels and modes as needed without breaking the experience. And that's the issue, without breaking the experience. And as Jim said, that's what we're seeing right now is it's still not a seamless experience. So if a customer starts on a voice call, and then with multimodal, the agent should be able to send like an SMS to confirm an order while still engaging with the customer on the phone, or even while on hold, the customer can get a message through WhatsApp or another messaging channel to provide that real multimodal experience. So this really needs to be managed in a fluid manner as the interaction moves between channels and modes. But again, that's where we're seeing some of the breakdown. As far as unified communications, we've been seeing UC and contact center coming together, for quite a while now. I've been talking about this since the 90s. And customers really are looking for that integrated UC and contact center platform. And there are lots of use cases, but the one we hear about all the time is the ability to bring in the non-contact center workers or subject matter experts that are outside of the contact center to help agents while they're talking or interacting with a customer. So with integrated UC and CC, the agents, the subject matter experts, and the customer can all collaborate and work together to try to solve the customer's problem. I call this the collaborative contact center, where everyone can really collaborate together. So it's not just so you really get that more agents are able to help customers again in a more seamless, fluid type of manner. And also another reason UC and CC are coming together, it's helping people who are outside of the contact center get some of those capabilities. So it could be someone, we always hear about the help desk. They need basic routing, queuing, screen pop, maybe, reporting, but they don't need all the bells and whistles of a full-blown contact center. So an integrated solution that provides some of the basic contact center capabilities to these non-contact center workers can be very helpful.
Yeah, and it's interesting that, and I think Sandy can probably speak to this, our customers are putting that pressure and expectation on them. I know when I call in and somebody says, I got to switch you to someone else, or, I'm just making I'm like, why can't you just ask somebody? But as we all know, it's not that simple, but we need to approach making it that simple for our customers. So Sandy, I know that's, what you're doing every day.
Just coming into that and thinking about the use of what are being termed cobots now, and where AI is going to bring an interesting dimension to the contact center with UC as well, and that is to provide expert advice to the to the contact center agent, it's taking knowledge management to a new level. So rather than them having to go and ask the question and put the caller on hold effectively while they look it up, or find an associate that can answer the question, AI can be working with the agent at the same time and listening to the conversation, using natural language processing, and actually help them in a continuous stream while they're dealing with the subject. So yeah, that's a very interesting development. And being able to, another sort of interesting area I think is the metaverse. I don't know if this is an appropriate time to mention it, but actually bringing in the use of virtual reality and augmented reality. So this is a whole new area of contact center capabilities, where you can be walked through a situation, whether it's an architect talking someone through a building that hasn't even been built yet, or walking through someone a virtual shop and demonstrating products. That is potentially next level contact center technology.
Yeah, I've seen some good demos of travel agents being able to show different places, so the customer can, see themselves sitting on the beach somewhere.
Perfect example. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting, and you just touched my wheelhouse here, Sandy. So I love some of these innovations. Certainly, some of them very niche, some of them more generically applicable. Correct. I'm looking to get my Ray-Ban Meta glass very soon, so I ordered one. But certainly there's a lot to develop in that front. And what we believe at Mitel, that we have so many different flavors of contact center demands. I was last week in the Eastern European Channel Partner event. They still rely a lot on voice, correct? All the contact centers are voice driven, because many government entities or services they provide are for elderly citizens that require just voice. So how can we augment that pure voice with AI capabilities? What we can bring to them around that environment that is pure voice, not as omni-channel, but when you talk about multimodal, bringing AI to it will be extremely valuable, correct? So we'll be able to drive interactions both with the citizens as well as talking to experts, or in the back end with UC integration. And to the audience here from Mitel, so we are working hard in launching our next generation contact center early next year, Mitel CX. It's a brand new product, and we're bringing a lot of innovation there and a lot of integrations, including AI and UC integrations in the back end.
Okay, so I'm going to keep us moving, make sure we have enough time. Next up, we want to dive more into that, what are customers looking at and needing, especially with respect to vertical specific integrations, which that brings its own whole complexity layer to it. So I'm going to go to Sandy first on this one, because I know that's, a lot of who you work with are in those different verticals.
Absolutely. The two that I can refer to now are local authority, and a user cases that in local authorities they manage the bin collections, or I should say trash collections, because you'll understand that, and various things can affect whether your bins are your rubbish is collected on time, and that could be the weather, for example, but within a contact center, so the person who's waiting for their rubbish to be collected might be waiting for a phone, or might be calling the contact center, and the contact center will be deluged with calls. AI can step in and put out a message, or it can anticipate, better still, say a weather forecast. So it looks at the weather forecast and says, well, it's going to be thunderstorms today, there are floods expected, and the degree of accuracy in forecasting now is such that could actually create a message, send it out to the customers, and therefore reduce the number of calls coming into the contact center. That's one example. Healthcare is another. Within the NHS, there's a massive problem with non-attendance, people making appointments and not showing up, and of course that wastes everybody's time. But the AI, what it should be able to do, or will be able to do, is look at the history of non-attendance and look at cycles and causes, and therefore manage the agendas for doctors and consultants much more effectively. I mean, those are two examples. Of course, there are many whereby the use of AI can enhance contact centers and again keep costs down.
And I want to go to Blair next to talk about the same thing. What are customers finding, especially in verticals, that they need to do or are doing when it comes to these big changes and new things and where we're going in the future?
Yeah, I'm seeing the biggest changes on the CX side, and especially, with AI, it's being huge with hospitality, airlines, hotels. It seems like every demo I've seen lately is using intelligent virtual agents or IVAs with natural language understanding, conversational AI, generative AI, helping with hotel reservations or booking or changing a flight. So the AI-based virtual agent can either help the customer directly, or it can be used to help the agent and provide suggested responses and even do some of the tasks that the agent would like to do, like send a confirmation. And I actually had an experience where I needed to change the dates of a hotel, and the virtual agent said, oh, well, there's going to be a price change if you, don't stay on a Saturday or whatever. Do you want to continue? It's like, yeah, I still do, but thanks for letting me know it's going to cost more money. So I was, pretty impressed with that. And it wasn't a demo. That was a real experience. Another thing I've seen is in retail. That's another really good vertical. I've seen a lot of use of video and even enhanced video, kind of to what Sandy was talking about, where you can see something that without trying it on or without actually being there. So like on one of the cosmetic company websites, you can get a video diagnostic of your skin and then get product recommendations based on your skin type. And then IKEA, I believe, and other home furnishing brands letting you see what the furniture will look like in your home and let you visually move things around to see what works. So I think we're going to start seeing that kind of thing more and more, especially in retail. So for me, it's retail and hospitality are the two big verticals where I'm seeing a big shift.
One thing I just throw out though in industries is, the critical industries often require secure communications, real-time communications, and advanced security. So I think that's one of the things for Mitel that will play well in certain industries, like energy, banking, finance, maybe not so much retail, but a lot of people look for those capabilities, governments. So I think then you look at the ability to do advanced stuff that's harder than you think. Some of the cloud providers that are just SaaS can't do that.
And so I guess we'll throw it to you, Luis, talking about Mitel.
Yeah, it's a very good point what you're saying. And when we look at our landscape of vertical implementations, there is so much we can explore. And we have a good portfolio in verticals for healthcare, hospitality, finance. And I just would take one case in healthcare, and we have our solution for e-consultation that we want to apply it and connect it to IoT for a simple reason, correct? So we have a large installed base of hospitals, particularly in Central Europe, in Germany, and many patients stay there a few days and they go to home care, outpatient care. And there must be some connectivity to them, some means to follow up and track progress, recovery, etc. So this is done by regular remote consultation, but the integration of IoT, medical IoT devices to the patients for remote monitoring and see how their vitals and all the information is feeding back to a central application with AI on top to really alarm doctors, nurses about the patient status, recovery, condition. I think that is a fantastic opportunity to explore in just one vertical, which is healthcare. But I agree. So there's so much to explore. The other segment that we're very active is mission critical and command and control dispatch for emergency crews. So there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of customers already using our solutions there. So certainly verticals is really our forte, and going beyond the traditional horizontal plain vanilla deployments, we want to be really a leader in that front and providing services to the customers.
All right, we have just a few minutes left, so I have a big question, and I'm going to give you each just 1 minute to answer it. Here's a big test and challenge for you. But the big question is, talking about the exciting opportunities ahead and what we can do, I want to get your thoughts on just that. As these technologies emerge and we're looking ahead to the next 3 to 5 years, what are the exciting technologies or trends that you see coming or that we should watch for and prepare for? So Jim, I'll go to you first.
Well, obviously, one of the things that I would stress is the growing role of AI, which really half of it's automation. So a lot of people think AI is really smart, and there was somebody in the Wall Street Journal that just said they're as dumb as a cat, but cats aren't that dumb. But AI is really not that smart. But the thing I would encourage everyone to do is you got to know AI, you got to use AI, and you got to embed it in your products. And I would also say don't underestimate the role of our team mentioned it, Sandy, on immersive video, immersive experiences. That's coming. It's coming fast. High resolution experiences for like telehealth. But again, the AI era is here, and we kind of say that it's going to automate things that humans don't want to do. Answering questions. A lot of humans don't like to answer questions, so a computer is better at that. So I would just say that's the era is here. It's not going away. There's not going to be another AI winter. It's going to be here from now on, and we need to, get comfortable with it so we can talk to customers about it and offer them, responsible ways to deliver these capabilities.
Blair, your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. It's all about AI. The problem is AI is stealing a lot of the attention and funding from other areas that are going to be on the back burner. So when people ask me about, where's the innovation, it's like the only thing that's really getting funding these days for a lot of companies is AI. So the big thing I'm seeing now with AI is AI agents or agentic AI. So these agents are being more proactive rather than reactive. So they'll do tasks on behalf of humans without being asked or told what to do, because right now it's, you tell the AI what to do. But this new generation is going to be able to autonomously make decisions and handle complex situations and perform tasks and do things in real time, and again, proactively. And I see this really happening in the contact center a lot, where it's going to be more proactive rather than just reactive. So going back to some of the verticals we were talking about, reaching out to customers when there's an outage, or reaching out when there's a package delay or a flight delay, and letting you actually take action and make changes rather than just your flight's delayed. It's, do you want to switch to a different day or, a different flight? So actually working with you to take action rather than just notifying you. So being proactive and doing tasks and working together with the customer to, again, solve their problem and do what needs to be done.
And Sandy, what are customers asking for us to do in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, the difficulty I have is that people come to me and say, "Oh, we need AI," and I say, "Okay, do you want to be a little bit more definitive? And can you tell me exactly what do you mean by that?" And if I start spouting about AI-driven automation and natural language processing and sentiment analysis, of course, it just goes, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. So my key starting point would be for a gap analysis. They know there's something that needs to be addressed within the organization. So we look at the internal processes within contact center or anywhere within the organization. And then we can start finding where AI might actually be able to deliver have a useful input. And so, we could start with something like meeting summaries or transcriptions, and then we can go on to the big, excuse me, the bigger stuff within the contact center, the whole concept really is so big that it's impossible to answer that question or to say, yeah, we need AI, and so you have to delve in and find out exactly why.
All right, and then we're just about at time, so perfect time to hand over to you, Luis.
Yes, so I'm not going to be able to summarize in 1 minute. You guys covered it so well, so I just second everything you said. So AI, as I presented before, is coming up, permeating our portfolio and bringing opportunity solutions for our customers, really with the goal of solving customer problems. So Jordan, thanks so much for organizing this panel. And thanks for participating. Sandy, your insights from the industry are very important to us. And Blair, your knowledge of contact centers is amazing, so we'll continue talking about it. Jim, you've been close to our house, so we will continue talking about everything, correct? Hybrid AI and everything else you can bring to us. And by the way, I heard that you have some good announcements today in Aragon Globe.
Yeah, I think it's our 9th Aragon Globe on Unified Communications and Collaboration, and Mitel is a leader in that report.
Oh, that's fantastic news. Thanks for sharing that. We're looking for that to come out later today. Very excited about it. Thank you. Guys, thank you so much for joining our panels. To the participants, to everybody here at Mitel, thanks for joining this session. Innovation Day is going on, so watch the presentations, learn something about our portfolio, about our innovations. It's very important for us. And I give you a challenge to embrace our innovation and pick a challenge you're working on and see how can you be innovative. Okay, that's the challenge of the year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.